Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Daily Grey Refuel, where I recap the latest news in the Ethereum ecosystem. I'm your host, Anthony Sassano, and today's the 8th of December, 2021. All right, everyone, let's get into it. So, I mentioned yesterday about how OpenSea had hired a new CFO, formerly of Lyft. So, CFO being Chief Financial Officer, Brian Roberts is his name. And there was quite a bit of chatter about how this meant that OpenSea would be going to IPO and not doing a token. Now, in response to that, Brian has put out a tweet today saying there was inaccurate reporting about OpenSea's plans. Let me set the record straight. There is a big gap between thinking about what an IPO might eventually look like and actively planning one. We are not planning an IPO, and if we ever did, we would look to involve the community. Now, I mean, this reads like lawyer speak to me, really, and I kind of quote tweeted this tweet by saying, easiest way to involve the community is with a token airdrop. I actually think that if OpenSea doesn't do a token airdrop to their community, it will be an extremely grave error on their part, and I do believe that they're kind of like, what will end up happening is that over time, especially as competitors come to the market, there'll be lots of their early users who will feel kind of like, wronged, I guess, is the term you could use, even though no one's entitled to a token airdrop, but they'll still feel wronged. And also they'll feel like OpenSea doesn't care about decentralizing, doesn't care about kind of like being community owned and governed. And to be honest, OpenSea is pretty centralized as it exists already. I mean, their contracts aren't even open source. So from that perspective, them doing a token would actually be off brand. But, and them doing an IPO would be on brand. But I hope that they can come around to doing a token instead of an IPO. I feel like IPOing as a crypto company is kind of like, I don't know, it's kind of like meh, right? I feel like the only reason to do it would be maybe because it's kind of like friendlier for regulators. But other than that, I just don't really see the reason. I feel like getting buy-in from your community, getting direct decentralized governance from your community, getting the platform run by the community for the community is the best path forward, I believe. If not, OpenSea is going to get disrupted. There's going to be competitors that do vampire attacks. They're going to have their own tokens. They're going to probably be better because they'll be able to innovate faster. Because they'll be more, they'll be smaller and more nimble to start with. OpenSea has an enormous network effect. Don't get me wrong. They're a near monopoly, as I was discussing, I think yesterday or the day before. But I don't think that they're safe from disruption. Nothing is really safe from disruption in crypto. Like you can't have a monopoly where it's kind of like a protection racket or a legalized monopoly, where you've got like the government protecting you or you have regulators protecting you. Within crypto, you don't really have any protections. You can get vampire attacked at any moment. If you piss off enough people, the community will basically come together and be like, how do we kind of like... How do we kind of like usurp this platform, or how do we kill this platform? Obviously, the quote unquote killers of anything don't usually work, but I think that's because they're done for the wrong reasons. Just using OpenSea as an example here, if they just really completely shunned their community and basically said, we're just going to IPO and screw you guys, like we just want an exit for our investors and early team members, that would probably be like a pretty bad decision in my mind. I feel like they would definitely get vampire attacked in that scenario, and they would have some very stiff competition. But maybe that's a good thing. As I said yesterday or the day before, I can't remember, I don't want OpenSea to be a monopoly on NFT trading or a near monopoly. And as I said, like it's not like a protection racket. It's not a monopoly kind of like enforced by the state, but it is a monopoly in that they have most of the market share right now. So we need more entrants. But I think that OpenSea would do the entrance like a pretty big service by not doing a token, because then the new entrants would have some way to kind of like compete pretty aggressively by doing a token. We all know that vampire attacks can work really well if done right. Maybe not for kind of like long-term health of a product. Like if there's a vampire attack and the kind of like... the other NFT marketplace is just like crappy, right? It's just a crappy product and a crappy service, then obviously no one is going to use it over the long term. But, I think that there definitely can be some contenders here. So just some general thoughts about that. Whenever I see and things about a crypto company doing an IPO, I always kind of like cringe a little bit. There might be hybrid models in the future where the company that's building the tools IPOs, but they still have a token for their tools, for example. That could be a path that some of these teams go down, and I think that's actually fine, because the centralized companies building these sorts of things, they're not trying to decentralize themselves. They're happy to be a centralized company. They're happy to be just kind of like the core team, or like at least a team that's part of, I guess, the community and who's building out the product. But the product itself can be decentralized. Like look at Uniswap, for example. Uniswap Labs is a centralized company. They run a centralized front end that has done censorship before of kind of like tokens on their interface, which I've spoken about before. but their smart contracts are completely decentralized. Governance is run by a DAO with uni tokens and all this other stuff. So you can have, I mean, this is how most of these things work, right? It doesn't have to be, like, I do like the DAO first kind of like things that we're seeing pop up where there's no physical kind of like company registered, there's no kind of like physical location. The location of the, I guess, like app is just the DAO, essentially, and the team is kind of part of that DAO. Makers like that. I mean, Maker started off pretty centralized with foundation and companies and different things. Now they're fully decentralized. There's no more foundation. They have working groups, stuff like that. I prefer that model personally. But yeah, we'll have to see which kind of path OpenSea wants to go down. I do hope they choose the right one. So Gitcoin announced today that they have been donated $1 million, which is going to be going to over the next 4 rounds of the Gitcoin Grant matching round from a group of NFT collectors known as the Momus Collective. Hopefully I said that right, or Momus Collective. And they're deploying these kind of like funds to fight society's biggest coordination failure, climate change, and its infamous deity Moloch. And you can kind of like read more details about this in the thread here, but the amount of money going to public goods right now is amazing. And I really do think that Gitcoin is, no, I wouldn't say it's like the complete sole reason, but it is the majority reason why we have such strong public goods funding. Gitcoin is a Schelling point for public goods. It lets more people kind of learn about it, get more people involved with it, more people kind of like donating, getting kind of like red-pilled on quadratic matching, kind of learning about why funding public goods is important, all those sorts of things. When you kind of look at it like that, it just, I mean, really, Gitcoin has been the force here, the extreme force that's kind of like pushing public goods funding forward. And it's just great to see that the amount of money that's pouring into it. As I mentioned yesterday, there's over $3 million of matching funds for this round so far. I'm sure the other rounds are going to, the future rounds are going to be just as big. There's record levels of donations. Yes, some people may be farming the airdrop on ZK Sync, but who cares? Like, you see, this is the thing, I think. Some people kind of like try to spin this negatively where they say, oh, the only reason people are donating on Gitcoin is because they're farming an airdrop on ZK Sync. They wouldn't donate otherwise. And it's like, who cares? Like, isn't this the whole point of what we're building here? We're trying to turn degeneracy into regeneracy, which is what I tried to do with the NFT drop recently, where there was a person who minted 28 of the NFTs because they wanted to resell them on the secondary markets. Well, thanks to that person, 28 times 0.07 ETH went to core developers, and or 80% of that, I should say, went to core developers, and all the secondary sales are also going, 15% of it is also going to core developers. So we turned kind of like that degeneracy into regeneracy, and we kind of like directed these funds to a greater good. And that's exactly what Gitcoin's doing here. Even if people are farming the airdrop on ZK Sync, I mean, I wouldn't call that like hardcore degen behavior, but it's still kind of like people just speculating, gambling, whatever you want to call it. We're turning that into a way to fund public goods. So it doesn't matter if all they're doing it for is an airdrop. That's just the incentive. That's just the kind of the carrot, right? And we're getting them to do to donate, which is just amazing. Getting more people kind of like into Gitcoin, more people kind of involved with Gitcoin. And I just truly feel like it's not a negative. And people try to spin it as a negative, and I don't understand why. I just don't see that. But yeah, anyway, mini rant there, but great to see this Momus Collective deploying over $1 million to over 4 rounds here. This is going to be pretty cool to watch play out. All right, new update from the Ethereum cat herders. This is their 51st update going over all things Ethereum core development. If you want to know everything that's going on with Ethereum core development across ETH1 and ETH2, this is probably your best resource. I know that I talk about Ben Edgington's What's New in ETH2 newsletter a lot. That is like your number one source for ETH2 stuff for sure. But the Ethereum cat herders updates come out less frequently, but they are packed full of information, packed full of links to follow. Like, if you want to keep up to date with Ethereum core development, this is the place to be. So in this kind of update, they go through all the major things, Arrow Glacier, which is happening today, I believe. Yes, today. I know it hasn't really been talked about at all because of the fact that it's literally just kind of like pushing back the difficulty bomb. It's nothing special for us, right? Talking about the Kintsugi merge testnet, 4488 and 4444 EIPs, which are the state expiry EIPs or the history expiry and the rollup the making rollups cheaper EIP, and then just like a bunch more details here, like a Vitalik's roadmap, of course, and so many more things here. It's just absolutely crazy to see how much they pack into these updates. So definitely go check this out if you want to be on the bleeding edge of Ethereum core development. And they also have videos too. I've spoken about this before, but they have a video series called Peep in EIP, which basically goes through each EIP in great detail and kind of like gives you a breakdown of exactly what it is, what it does, and has a guest on that kind of like does a deep dive into it. So yeah, the Ethereum cat herders are doing amazing work. So kudos to them for all of that work, and yeah, great to see another update out of them. So some big news out of Argent today. They have introduced their Argent X wallet, which is the first wallet for Starknet. It's now available on the Chrome store, but caveat here, it's a developer tool for now. Like, I mean, as I've said before, Starknet is on mainnet in an alpha fashion, but there's really not much for end users to do on there. I don't even think there's anything for end users to do on there right now because the devs are still getting used to building on it. They're kind of like checking out all the tooling. More tooling is being built around it, like the Argent X wallet and everything like that. So if you do want to try it out, you can go to the Chrome web store and kind of like play around with it. There's also a video here showing you it. I mean, it looks like your standard kind of like crypto wallet, right? But it talks to Starknet and the Ethereum mainnet. And they make a note here that Argent X shouldn't be confused with their mobile layer 2 wallet, which is built on ZK Sync and rolling out in stages now, which some of you may have gotten access to. I spoke about this the other day. But great to see Argent just like being all in on Ethereum scaling. Like, I can't wait for them to announce their Optimism and Arbitrum integration as well, but they're really kind of like all in here. And obviously, any team that is all in on Ethereum scaling is going to be amazing in my books, and I'm sure your books as well. But the thing with Argent is that I feel like they've been building for quite a while, and I've explained before how the high gas fees basically made their wallet unusable because to create a smart contract wallet on Argent was like a few $100s of gas fees. In the early days, they were subsidizing this and covering it themselves, but it just got too expensive for them, which is understandable. But on layer 2, we collapsed those kind of like costs right down, like completely right down, obviously. So it's great to see them just continuing to build this infrastructure out so everyone can experience Argent and all the features that they have to offer without the really high gas cost. Obviously, we want all the users to migrate to layer 2 as fast as possible, and this is just kind of like one way to do that. So definitely go check this out if you want to. As I said, it is a developer tool for now, not much you can do as an end user, but if you are a dev, then yeah, go check it out. So this new DeFi protocol called Primitive was introduced today, and they're billing themselves as derivatives without oracles, and they're going to be launching this month. Now, there are a few gigabrains behind this, Alex Evans, Giuliano Angeres, Tarun Chitra, and a person called Experience here. They're pretty smart mathematicians from what I've seen, cryptographers, so that's why I'm kind of like paying attention to this. But as I said, this is... Primitive is a what do they describe themselves here? Derivatives without, offering derivatives without oracles. And they're calling it a replicating market maker, or RMM-01. And they're going to have a spot exchange and a derivative protocol. Now, I'm not going to try and break this down for you guys just in the short time that I have here. Definitely go check it out. Check out the blog post for more details here, but it's really cool to see that they're going to be launching on Ethereum L1 mainnet, Arbitrum L2, and Optimism L2. So they're launching it all three at once. So that's amazing. I mean, I know I've said to you guys before that I really like how we're seeing a lot more kind of like layer 2 native deployments, but I mean, there's no reason why you can't deploy on layer 1 as well as layer 2. Like, deploy on layer 1 for the whales and the liquidity that's still there and the people that want to use it, that's still there. But then also deploy to layer 2s for all the people who just want to use the layer 2s. Like, I do think that a lot of protocols just aren't going to bother with layer 1 because it just doesn't make sense for them. But if if it doesn't add too much overhead to your product life cycle, if you've got the bandwidth to do it and you're happy paying the deployment cost, which probably is tens of thousands of dollars for these sorts of protocols at layer 1 Ethereum, then why not do it? So really cool to see them launching on all of that. And the features on launch will include concentrated fungible liquidity and liquidity pool tokens that replicate covered call options, derivatives. These are very exotic products, guys. Definitely not for the faint of heart. Definitely not for people who don't understand them. I always kind of like caution people not to play around with options unless they really understand what they're doing, because you can lose money pretty quickly. So definitely kind of like understand them before you dive into it. And same with derivatives and stuff like that, and leverage and all that sort of stuff. Definitely playing with fire if you don't know what you're doing there. But yeah, in this blog post they detail the derivatives tokens that they're kind of issuing, the spot exchange, all the stuff around liquidity management, how they're using TWAP oracles to kind of like power the protocol. TWAP stands for time weighted average price, which is basically taking the average price from a liquidity source or kind of like an exchange source such as Uniswap for the oracle here. And they've had 4 audits as well. So these guys aren't screwing around. They've had a lot of 4 audits from Chain Security, ABDK, DDorb, and Sherlock, and they're also having an open bug bounty of $250,000 here. So if you're a dev or if you're a kind of like hacker and you want to try and hack this and earn some money, definitely do so. And then they've got the full launch details. So they're launching their testnet this week, like during the week of December 7th. And yeah, I'm guessing their mainnet deployment is going to go live in probably the next couple of weeks. So definitely go check out the blog post for more details on this. So another protocol that was kind of like announced today, or at least they announced their seed round, is JallyFi, which is a capital-efficient DeFi lending protocol that enables uncollateralized crypto loans. That's really cool. I mean, uncollateralized crypto loans are like the holy grail, right? No one likes having to over-collateralize their entire position just to get access to some borrowing capacity. But anyway, their seed round was led by Lemniscap here, with participation from other top investors like Parafy Capital, Tioga Capital, a bunch of others here. You can see all the names, Defiance Capital, things like that. And if I click on their blog post, there will be more details about this as well. A bunch of kind of like angels and stuff too. So yeah, because it's a money market, you'll be able to kind of like borrow and lend on here. But as I said, they're trying to kind of do under collateralized kind of like DeFi instead of kind of like the over collateralized, which is always good. I love kind of like seeing those kind of those sorts of protocols, of course. But yeah, I mean, if you want to, this is just a press release. You can go kind of like check this out and learn more here. But I guess they also have like their website here where you can sign up and be first to know when they're going live. I really like the website. The art's really cool. I checked this out just before. It looks really, really cool here. But yeah, definitely go check this out if you're interested in learning more about it. There's documentation here. There's plenty of details about it, so there's no need to kind of like listen to me rant on about it. You can go check it out for yourself. Now, I haven't seen any information about where they're launching. Like, is it going to be Ethereum Layer 1? Is it going to be Layer 2? Maybe it's on their blog post somewhere. I haven't really kind of like read through it too kind of closely yet. All that's on their blog post is the kind of like announcement of the raise here. But I'm curious to see if they're going to deploy on multi kind of like layer deployment or just on layer 1. Who knows? We'll see what happens there. So Georgios from Paradigm announced today something called Foundry, and he describes Foundry as a portable, fast, and modular toolkit for Ethereum application development. So developers out there, this one's for you. And if you follow Georgios on Twitter, you'll know he's obsessed with the Rust programming language, and that's exactly what this is kind of like doing. It's kind of bringing his obsession with Rust into kind of like this development toolbox, so that that you essentially kind of like learn Rust and kind of like play around with this. That's what he wants you to do. So all the details are in this blog post. I'm not going to go into too much detail because obviously I'm not a developer, so I don't understand half of this stuff. But if you are a developer, definitely go check it out, because Georgios has been. He's been doing Ethereum development for so long. He used to be part of the Loom network team, which was building kind of like Plasma back in 2017, 2018. They also have one of the best Solidity guides called Crypto Zombies. And then he moved on to kind of like Paradigm from there, and he's been doing a bunch of really, really great work there as well. And this is kind of his latest release. So definitely go check this out if you're a developer. I'm sure it'll be interesting for you guys. So Mean Finance, which I've talked about before on the Refuel, have announced their beta launch of Mean V2, which they're calling the state-of-the-art dollar cost average, or DCA protocol. V2 is completely decentralized, permissionless, composable, and optimistic by nature, which means I didn't get a chance to read this before I kind of like added it to today's list of things to talk about. I guess by using the term optimistic, they're going to be deploying to Optimism. Yeah, there it is. They've decided to go full L2 native protocol, with the first chain supported being Optimism. Now, I think I spoke about Mean Finance the first time, and I said that I don't think this works at layer 1 at all. It doesn't make any sense for it to be on layer 1 because when you're dollar cost averaging in, say you want to put $50 in, you're not going to be able to do a trade on layer one most of the time for less than $50, right? Like it's going to cost you, I mean, it could cost you $30 to $50 or something like that, but it doesn't make any economical sense. So the fact that they're going, and deploying natively on Optimism, and then they're going to deploy to other kind of chains as well, whether they be kind of like side chains or L2s, is the best path forward for them. So I'm really, really happy to see that. This is a protocol that I would definitely use if it was on layer 2. Like if I'm DCAing in, like if I want to do my kind of like a DCA buys in and it's only a few $100, like even at $1,000, doing a trade and it costing $50 in gas fees plus the 0.3% Uniswap kind of like fee, that just is not economical, even at $1,000. So, if you're doing a DCA of each week, of however much out there, most people aren't even doing a DCA of $1,000 each week. So it's definitely not economical for them to do it at layer 1. So really, really excited to see that. And they did mention that V2 is going to be decentralized, which I guess means a token is coming, right? Maybe there's an airdrop. So for all you airdrop hunters out there, might be a good idea to interact with the protocol, use it. I mean, use it as well because it's a good project, a good protocol. Automated DCAs is definitely something that I find really interesting, especially in a in kind of like DeFi, in the DeFi context, rather than being on a centralized exchange. But yeah, I mean, if they're going the path of being fully decentralized, then yeah, a token is definitely coming because then they're going to have a DAO, and have a token, all that good stuff there. So another one for you airdrop hunters out there. I know that you guys are very active. I see it in the channel, in the Discord channel all the time. For those who don't know, we actually have an airdrop hunting channel in the Discord channel. So there's a lot of alpha happening in there, a lot of kind of like things to do. So yeah, if you're interested in any future airdrops, definitely go check that out. But yeah, as I said, really, really cool to see that they're going to layer 2 here. I think it makes a ton of sense. And speaking of layer 2, Ramp Network has kind of detailed how layer 2 on-ramping is here. So I think they have layer 2 on-ramps to Optimism, Arbitrum, and ZK Sync right now, or at least all of them. I mean, I think, what are they saying here? Okay, over the next few months, Ramp Network plans to provide universal global on-ramping to all the major L2s. That's really, really cool. I mean, Little Cohen says here, when Arbitrum and Optimism, and then the Ramp Network provide before the snow ends. Now, I hate when people use seasons to refer to times of the year, because there's snow. Winter is like June, July, August for Melbourne. So I'm going to assume they're talking about like the Northern Hemisphere, which means that by the end of January, if I'm getting my seasons right, or like February, is when they're going to have support here. So this is, I mean, as I've said before to you guys, this is the Holy Grail. Fiat on and off ramping. The Holy Grail is like centralized exchanges because they have much more users than something like Ramp Network. But Ramp Network, kind of like, I think, from what I know, they don't require KYC. You can just basically go directly from their service to layer 1 or layer 2 using fiat to crypto. So that's like a benefit there. But I guess the reason why they can do that is because you're technically already kind of like KYC'd, because you either go through like your bank or your credit card, or I don't know if they have PayPal support or anything like that. So technically, you're not doing it anonymously. I mean, it's very hard, if not impossible, to do anonymous transactions in the digital fiat world. You can do it with cash, but I mean, you can't onboard with cash to kind of like layer 2s here. You could do like local meetups and local kind of like buying, but I mean, that's really risky. But you still don't have to do KYC again, right? Like you do with centralized exchanges, I don't believe. So really, really cool to see that. And it just makes sense, right? I mean, I've said to you guys, there's 3 major ways we get people onto layer 2s: centralized exchange on offboarding, direct fiat on ramps, and batched onboarding as well, which are all being worked on in tandem. They're all coming. It's just going to take a little bit longer to get out there because the infrastructure needs to be built. But once it's there, we're going to have such a seamless and amazing time, kind of like, especially with the bridges as well, like going from layer 2 to layer 2, going from side chains as well to other side chains, going through Ethereum. The ideal scenario for end users is not having to touch Ethereum layer 1, but still getting the benefit of the decentralization and security of Ethereum layer 1, of course, because obviously these layer 2s kind of like tap into that, as I've mentioned plenty of times before. But yeah, cool to see Ramp Network committing to supporting all the major layer 2s here. And speaking of bridges, there was a little update here from Hot Protocol that I just wanted to shout out, but this is also going to segue me into something I want to talk about, bridges again. They kind of added dark mode to their bridge kind of like interface here, so pretty cool to see that. I mean, dark mode is, I guess, like a requirement these days of pretty much every website. So they've never added dark mode here. But this segues me into bridges again. Now, I've talked about bridges before. I've talked about how there are centralized points of failure, how there's different bridges, how they aren't really bridges. It's not even a good term for it because you're literally not really hot protocol is more of kind of like a cross-chain swap kind of thing, rather than a bridge. I mean, there's still kind of like tokens that get locked up, but like, for example, if we talk about something like the Polygon POS chain bridge, right, where you go from Ethereum to the POS chain, well, those funds are locked in a smart contract, and then you're issued an IOU on the POS chain. You're not bridging across, right? So it's inaccurate to kind of like say that. And I've spoken about how people are making real strides at actually doing a proper bridge. Makers doing it with their DAI portal, where they would actually burn DAI on layer 1 Ethereum and issue it on a layer 2, and it would only ever exist on that layer 2 as a native asset. It wouldn't actually be able to exist kind of like in that, I guess, like smart contract, locked in that smart contract. So it's actually a true bridge. But what I wanted to kind of like just caution about, there's a lot of bridges coming online right now, guys. And I actually think because bridges are kind of like, their usage is growing. The bridges are going to be the way that people interact with a lot of these kind of like protocols, how they get in and out of them. We're going to see a pretty major bridge hack one day, and it's going to be bigger than the Poly network or whatever hack it was, because they're massive honeypots. They're new. A lot of them have multi-sigs attached to them or admin keys attached to them, and a lot of them are coming out really quickly because it's a lucrative kind of industry right now. Or it's a lucrative product because everyone wants to use these bridges. So I just want to caution and say to you guys, be careful with the bridges that you use. Be very careful with it, not just because of the centralization concerns, but also the security concerns. Use the more reputable ones, the ones that have been around for a while. If you're using the ones that are newer out there, like I've spoken about a lot of them before, if you're using them in the hopes of getting an airdrop, that's fine. You're just you're taking the risk there with doing that. But just be sure that you're well aware of the fact that these things have major risks associated with them, especially the more complex ones that are doing a bunch of complex smart contract logic in the background in order to kind of like issue tokens here and debit them here and do it there and do it there. There's a lot of this stuff going on. So I just wanted to caution against that because as I've said, I've seen an explosion in bridge protocols coming out recently. And it's whenever I see that happening, it obviously increases the chances of one of them being exploited. If you have like one bridge protocol, then the chance of that being exploited is quite low in terms of kind of like, it could still be exploited because it could be coded badly, but there's only one of them, right? But if you have 10 different ones, well, then the chance goes way up because, it's a very low chance that all 10 of them are like super secure, don't have any bugs in them, is all well and good. Because if you actually look at the history of all of DeFi, the hacks started getting kind of like more frequent the more projects that were out there. It's just like simple maths, guys. So from that point of view, I just wanted to kind of caution against that. In terms of like bridges that, I don't kind of like try to endorse any one project or kind of like recommend any one project, but in terms of bridges that I've used in the past and that I actually think are kind of like, been around for a while and trustworthy, Hop, definitely, Connext, Lee.finance, which is the bridge aggregator, which just kind of like routes through these, those sorts of things. But again, they could still be hacked or exploited too, guys. So don't take my word for it. Don't take that as me saying, go use these things and you'll be safe forever. Everything comes with smart contract risk. Like any smart contract that you interact with has a risk associated with it. You just need to understand that. And the more complex it is, the more risky it is because there's more margin for kind of like error there. So yeah, anyway, I'm gonna end it there for today. I just wanted to kind of like let you guys kind of like know my thoughts on that, just to keep you guys safe, because I would hate to see you guys get like, your funds stolen out of one of these bridges, because I know that a lot of you are using it to get into the layer 2s to actually use them. So just wanted to kind of caution that there. But anyway, that's it for today. So thank you everyone for listening and watching. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. Give the video a thumbs up, subscribe to the newsletter, join the Discord channel, and I'll catch you all tomorrow. Thanks everyone.